The restaurant was warm and full of soft music, but at the small corner table near the window, the atmosphere felt cold and heavy. Emily sat quietly, holding a small purse in her lap. Inside that purse was everything she had: $5 and a folded piece of paper with the address of the place where she worked. Emily was a maid. Every morning she woke up before sunrise and cleaned houses that were larger than anything she could ever imagine owning. Marble floors, giant chandeliers, and closets bigger than her entire apartment. But tonight was different. Tonight she had a blind date. Her co-worker Maria had convinced her to try. "You deserve happiness too," Maria had said with a smile. Emily wasn't sure about that. She had spent nearly 30 minutes choosing what to wear. In the end, she picked the simplest dress she owned. It was old but clean, pale blue with tiny white flowers. Her shoes were worn but polished carefully. She looked around the restaurant nervously. Everyone seemed rich. Everyone looked confident. Everyone looked like they belonged there. Except her. After 10 minutes, a man walked toward the table. He looked stylish, confident, and slightly annoyed. His name was Ryan. He barely smiled as he sat down. "So, you're Emily?" he asked. "Yes," she said softly. Ryan looked her up and down. The simple dress. The old shoes. The nervous posture. He leaned back in his chair. "Oh," he muttered. Emily felt the word like a small knife. A waiter came. Ryan ordered an expensive steak and wine without even asking her what she wanted. Emily quietly ordered the cheapest soup. Ryan smirked. "So what do you do?" he asked. "I work as a house cleaner," she replied honestly. Ryan chuckled. "Seriously?" "Yes." "You mean, like a maid?" The word hung in the air. Emily nodded. Ryan laughed loudly. At nearby tables, people started glancing over. "That's hilarious," he said. "Maria never told me she was setting me up with a maid." Emily's cheeks turned red. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Ryan leaned forward with a mocking smile. "So tell me, do you clean bathrooms for fun too?" Emily looked down at the table. "I work hard," she said quietly. Ryan rolled his eyes. "Relax, it's a joke." At that exact moment, someone sitting 2 tables away looked up. A tall man in a dark suit. His name was Daniel Carter. Daniel was a millionaire. Actually, a multi-millionaire. But he didn't look like the typical arrogant rich man. His expression was calm and thoughtful. He had been quietly having dinner after a long business meeting. But Ryan's loud voice had caught his attention. Daniel watched the scene carefully. He saw the humiliation on Emily's face. He saw the way she tried to stay polite. He saw the $5 bill inside her open purse when it slipped slightly onto the table. Ryan continued. "So tell me," he said loudly, "if we get serious, do I get free house cleaning?" More laughter. A couple at another table smiled awkwardly. Emily swallowed hard. "I think maybe I should go," she said gently. Her soup had barely arrived. Ryan scoffed. "Relax. You can at least pay for your soup." Emily froze. I only have $5, she admitted softly. Ryan leaned back dramatically. "Oh wow. A gold digger with $5. A few people laughed. Emily slowly reached into her purse and placed the $5 bill on the table. Her voice trembled. "This should cover the soup." Ryan shook his head. "This is the worst blind date ever." Emily stood up. "I'm sorry for wasting your time." She turned to leave. But suddenly a calm voice spoke. "Excuse me." Both of them turned. Daniel Carter stood up from his table. Ryan frowned. "Do I know you?" Daniel ignored the question and looked at Emily. "Miss, would you please sit down for a moment?" Emily looked confused. "I don't want to cause trouble," she said. Daniel smiled gently. "You're not causing trouble." He then looked at Ryan. "You are." Ryan scoffed. "Mind your business." Daniel calmly took out his phone and placed it on the table. "Do you know who owns this restaurant?" Ryan shrugged. "No." Daniel smiled slightly. "I do." Ryan frowned. "What?" Daniel turned to the waiter. "James, could you bring the manager?" Within seconds, the manager rushed over. "Mr. Carter, is everything okay?" Ryan's face changed. "You're Carter?" Daniel nodded slightly. Ryan suddenly looked nervous. "Yes," Daniel said calmly. "The same Carter whose company owns this building." The restaurant fell silent. Daniel looked at Emily again. "Please sit," he said kindly. Emily slowly sat down again. Ryan forced a laugh. "Hey, no hard feelings, right?" Daniel's voice was calm but firm. "There are hard feelings." Ryan shifted uncomfortably. Daniel continued. "I've spent years building businesses. But the most valuable thing I've learned is simple." He looked directly at Ryan. "How someone treats people who have nothing." Ryan didn't answer. Daniel turned to the waiter. "Cancel this man's order." Ryan looked shocked. "What?" Daniel's tone remained calm. "And ask him to leave." Ryan stood up angrily. "You can't do that." The manager stepped forward. "Sir, please leave." Ryan grabbed his jacket and stormed out of the restaurant. Silence followed. Emily looked overwhelmed. "I'm so sorry," she said to Daniel. "You don't need to apologize," he replied. He sat across from her. "May I join you?" Emily nodded slowly. Daniel smiled. "Now, let's start over." He looked at the waiter. "Bring her the best meal on the menu." Emily quickly shook her head. "No, please, I don't want." Daniel raised his hand gently. "It's not charity." She looked confused. "It's respect." Dinner arrived. For the first time that night, Emily smiled. They talked. Daniel learned about her life. She worked 3 jobs. She supported her younger brother. She had once dreamed of studying architecture but couldn't afford college. Daniel listened carefully. Not interrupting. Not judging, just listening. At the end of the dinner, Emily said softly, "Thank you for tonight." Daniel leaned back thoughtfully. "You know something, Emily?" "What?" "I think tonight might change both our lives." Emily laughed slightly. "I doubt it." Daniel smiled. "Tomorrow morning, come to this address." He wrote something on a card. Emily looked at it. It was the address of the Carter Development Headquarters. Her eyes widened. "Why?" Daniel stood up. "Because I think someone who works as hard as you deserves an opportunity." Emily stared at the card. "But I'm just a maid." Daniel smiled. "Not for long." The next morning, Emily walked nervously into the huge glass building. People in suits rushed everywhere. She felt completely out of place. But at the reception desk, the woman smiled. Miss Emily, Mr. Carter is expecting you. Emily's heart pounded. When she entered the office, Daniel greeted her warmly. Good morning. He handed her a folder. Scholarship papers. Emily blinked. What? Daniel explained. My company funds education programs. She opened the folder slowly. It was a full scholarship. Architecture school. Tears filled her eyes. I can't accept this, she whispered. Daniel smiled. You can. She looked at him. Why are you doing this? Daniel answered simply. Because yesterday, when you only had $5, you still offered to pay. Years passed. Emily worked harder than she ever had. She studied day and night. She graduated at the top of her class. Eventually, she became one of the most talented young architects in the city. One afternoon, she walked into a large office building. Her name was now on the door. Emily Carter Design Studio. Inside the office sat Daniel. Older now, but still smiling the same way. Emily laughed. You still remember the $5? Daniel nodded. Best investment I ever saw. Emily smiled. You changed my life. Daniel shook his head. No. He looked at her proudly. You changed it yourself. And sometimes, the smallest moment, a $5 bill. A cruel laugh. A stranger standing up for you. Can change everything forever.